If your previous roles that you've played, who do you think would benefit the most out of having someone like Koyama on his side?
Wow. Well, you brought up Tulsa King, so I mean, Jackie Ming having like a big time informant of the sergeant status would definitely help his enterprise.
Nerd Reactor, roll out.
Rich, how's it going?
All right, how's it going, John?
Good, good. I feel like these couple of years has been like the year of Rich, and in terms of just yeah, the shows, right? On Call and Tulsa King.
Right.
And so with each show, Tulsa King, uh, criminal, but then on call, you're a sergeant, and you're playing like different characters on opposite ends. One would stop criminals, the other side would want to just keep on doing what they want to do and get money. So is it true that the villains have more fun?
Well, first of all, only in Hollywood can I go from drug lord to, crime stopper, right? In the matter of a couple months. So, it's just always a privilege to be able to play these different characters. I don't know if there's so much more freedom on one, villain versus, let's say, protagonist, right? But I just enjoy the variety, and I'm just blessed to not be typecast. I think that's the biggest thing for me personally and for my team. I've had the opportunity to play so many different characters throughout my career, and they've all been so different. So I'm very excited to start the new year, 2025, being on the right side of the law, right? And so, hopefully, there's many more seasons to come. But I absolutely love the character of Sergeant Tyson Koyama. Love the character of Jackie Ming on Tulsa King. Don't get me wrong. I mean, that was a fun character to play with all those guys. But yeah, I'm just like, you know what? I take every project, you know, on one at a time. I put my all of my undivided into the current one at hand, and I just really enjoy what I do. I love what I do. To say the least. So it's always a privilege.
Oh yeah, and on call, the actors, they get to go on a ride along, experience different things. And I want to know if you went on a ride along too, and what would be like the one thing that really stood out for you experiencing that?
Right. Yes, I was able to do a ride along with Long Beach Police Department. Shout out to them. They've been incredibly generous in volunteering their time and their advocacy and their resources to us to make this show as real as possible. I've been fortunate to be on a lot of ride-alongs actually since I was a little kid. So it was something I did, whether it was friends of the family that were in law enforcement or just other people that volunteered to have me. So the ride-along experience isn't definitely something new to me. I've definitely grown up doing that, and I love it. I'm very curious always about my environment, and I've moved around a lot throughout my childhood and young adulthood. So that's always been something I just do. So to be able to have the opportunity to do it in my backyard, literally, being originally from the South Bay of Southern California, Long Beach has always been right there. Never really explored it to the extent that I had to for this show and prepping for it. So I would say, as far as what I saw and the environments, our police officers took us to, everything, there wasn't anything super surprising. I think the one thing I focused on more than the actual external environment of what was going on in the different neighborhoods and the different communities we saw was more of the personal interaction between the police officers that I was with. Being playing the role of Sergeant Koyama, he's a 20-year plus veteran. He's actually Troyan's training officer. So we have to establish that as soon as you get to meet, the characters, in the first or second episode. So that was something that, I'm not a police officer. I don't have 20 years in the force. And as an actor, the craft is to really bring that energy and that maturity and that ambiance to the camera from the very first time you meet me. So it was very important for me to get these subtleties and to get these, micro moments that I picked up from the officers that I was with. So I was studying more, I would say, internally as opposed to like the environment, I mean, that's not to say I did not pay attention. Like I was definitely locked in. I mean, you cannot not pay attention when you're on these ride-alongs, so to speak. But I think the most interesting thing was just the chemistry that the police officers had with one another, um, their sense of calmness, their ability to control and de-escalate every situation in such a professional manner. These are things I think that really show the maturity and the veteranism of police officers who've been serving that long. So that's definitely probably the most important thing I picked up.
Oh yeah, and I think for your character, I feel like he's the anchor to Harmon's character in terms of just like a bright future in law enforcement. And I was wondering for you if there was like an anchor for you for your acting career, for someone that's like, oh, this person, like I just feel like just can help elevate me.
Right. Great question. In the real world, in the world in Rich Ting world, right? I've had a ton of teachers, and it just doesn't start with the theatrical. It goes back to my athletic coaches and to my parents. I mean, I've been fortunate to enter this business kind of late. And so a lot of people saw that originally as a disadvantage for me, but I actually have totally taking that as an advantage because I've been able to experience other career paths, other lifestyles, other environments prior to the entertainment world. So, when it's hard to pinpoint or give credit to one person or to one mentor, first and foremost, my parents, just the work ethic they've installed in me. I think that's universal. No matter what job you do, you have to bring that work ethic, that accountability, that persistence, that commitment to any job. So, playing the role of Sergeant Koyama, who's been in the force for 20 plus years, I mean, that shows accountability right there. That shows that he shows up every day. He does his job to the best of his ability. He's good at what he does, if not great. And, he has this maturity and this advocacy, which I think can be applied to any job. So whether it was a law school professor or a coach at Yale or a high school coach or a teacher from grade school or even my acting coach right now, they all have given me and provided me these tools that ironically play right into this character. And I'm not just saying it because we're talking about this show. I sincerely mean that because you brought up Tulsa King earlier, like Jackie Ming. I've known some Jackie Mings in my life. You know what I mean? So I've had these personal encounters with these people that I take very as privileges, not knowing I'd be doing this at the age that I'm doing it at. Pulling from my past experiences in these different worlds. But as far as like a cumulative kind of like a role that I've been able to apply all my tools to, it's definitely going to be this role because it's so close to really who I am. Shout out to our showrunner, Tim Walsh, for allowing me to create this character based on me, literally. We have these discussions behind the scenes about, what is the context? Where is Koyama coming from? Where is Koi going? And he's like, you tell me, what do you feel, having been a native of the South Bay of Southern California, what are things you would have done? What are things you have done? And so, um, maybe that's the answer. Maybe it's Tim Walsh, because he's really been the man responsible for bringing me into this project. Respect to Dick Wolf and the whole Wolf Entertainment, camp as well. But Tim's really been hands-on with me. And it's been a very special relationship. We've been able to grow during this show, and he's just given me the freedom that no other showrunner has ever given me. So I'm really appreciative towards him.
Yeah, and one of the things that I really like about the show is just showing the humanity with the cops, and especially like let's say during lunchtime, they would go to like their favorite local joint in the
Right.
South Bay. So I don't know if
Right.
you have like a favorite local joint that you like and that you want to like just say, hey, check this place out.
What's funny in the South? I got to give a shout out. So there's this Hawaiian plate lunch place. Actually, it's actually in Torrance. So it's not. I mean, it's still South Bay, but it's not as south as Long Beach. Hawaiian plate lunch. I got history with Hawaii, family, friends, and stuff like that. And so, comfort food, anything from the islands, is always brings a smile to my face. So, but to your point, yeah, that was a huge thing that the writers and Tim and Elliot did with with season one is they really kept the accuracy of Long Beach consistent. They use the demographics, they use the multicultural, they use the different communities, and you're gonna see that as a viewer that the incorporation even like of Cambodia Town, and the influence of that Asian community, in Long Beach, and I just really appreciate the sensitivity and awareness to the multiculturalism. Being someone of color, especially of Asian descent, we don't usually get those opportunities to showcase our culture on these shows. We're kind of labeled as kind of one, right? And so for Tim and Elliot to take the extra step to really dissect and really examine, like, the fact that I am playing a Japanese American police officer who's mixed, basically like myself. There has been a huge Japanese American population and demographic in the South Bay for decades, especially after the war. My family is all from there. We're all born and raised in the South Bay. And then, more recently, the Cambodians have come and established their communities in Long Beach. So, as you mentioned, Harmon and Diaz, they definitely make their spots at whether it's like a lunch truck or getting their Cambodian coffee or what it may be, and so that was really special, especially like I said, a person of Asian descent to see that, on the page.
Oh yeah. And I think for your character, Koyama, I would want to have someone like him on my side. And as you mentioned, like you closely relate to just like his character. And so I was wondering, like, what's that one personality trait for you with Koyama? It's like, yeah, this is me. This is Koyama. This is it.
Right. I think, the one thing I really wanted to convey, with Sergeant Koyama is the fact that he's very selfless. He's very giving, you know, having, again, going back to these ride-alongs, these officers and these law enforcement, personnel that have, protected and served our communities for so many years, they have these walls up because of what they do every day. You know what I mean? And I'm not saying that you can't be a nice guy and also enforce the law. Like, all of the mentors we've had are fantastic human beings. And the one thing I wanted to show is, like, Koyama is a normal person. He's a big brother, he's a husband, he's an advocate, he's a teacher, he's a mentor. At the same time, when it's game time, he's got to put on that face, he's got to put on that shield, he's got to put on that energy, you know what I mean, to make sure, just like a military commander or sergeant, in one of the armed forces branches would have to do, so, I didn't want to play him like, oh, he's very strict, he's very rigid, he's very intimidating. It's like, no, you know what, when it's game time, as we all do, game face is on, you know. But when we're not in the game, or we're not fourth and one on the goal line kind of thing. We can relax and we can show our true colors and our vulnerabilities and our care and our love. And I think the the way in which I mentor, the way in which I take care of Harmon, of Troy's character, was very important to me because I wanted to show his love for her, his protective side for one of his trainees, so to speak. And at the same time, I don't know if you've seen them, but when it cracks off, he's in full mode. So, I wanted to establish this kind of like big brother, like uh advocate, mentor, but at the same time, he's got my back, in the heat of battle, as well as
Yeah.
when we're off and, someone has a personal family issue, you can also go to Koyama for that advice and that comfort as well. So that'd probably be it.
Oh yeah. And I think with Koyama, right? Like if your previous roles that you've played, who do you think would benefit the most out of having someone like Koyama on his side?
Wow. Well, you brought up Tulsa King, so I mean, Jackie Ming having like a big time informant of the sergeant status would definitely help his enterprise. Let's see who else. I can go back to like Warrior, Bolo days. I feel like maybe Bolo was a guy who could use as many mentors as possible, right? He had Father June taking care of him back in the day in San Francisco, but this project kind of it's different, you know. You brought it up earlier. I've been able to play all these different characters, right? So far, and it's been a privilege not to be typecast. At the same time, I truly believe, like, not only the name, because the name Koyama is actually my mother's maiden name. And so I was able to bring that to this project per Tim Walsh because he wanted me to really have a connection with my character and to literally for me to play myself as if I were a police officer, So that being said, this character is just it's just different. You know what I mean? I feel like I'm gonna flip it and be like, I I don't know if Koyama has his Koyama, as a mentor. But I would say that would be my answer is that if all these characters, which people haven't seen yet because it comes out next week, I've had to have had that Koyama, because if I'm going to be the the training officer, the mentor, the team leader of the drug enforcement unit of Long Beach PD, then I definitely have come from amazing training as well, right? So there's your answer, you know.
Oh
Uh
yeah, yeah.
Sergeant Koyama should have a Sergeant Koyama in his life.
For sure, for sure. But yeah, Rich, it's a pleasure chatting with you, and I can't wait for when the show comes out. Everyone gets to see it and get to see like the badassness that is Sergeant Koyama. And
Appreciate that.
yeah,
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.